Okay, how do I sound now? Good? Awesome. Okay. My name is Lila the Great, escape artist extraordinaire. Nice to meet you, Carter. Brown irises sparkled with flecks of amber in her eyes. Her wavy dark hair draped to the nape of her neck and bounced whenever she moved her head. Were you expecting me? Carter mumbled, taken aback. Nope, but my dad was, Lila said. Who's your dad? That would be me, a voice said from behind him. I believe we've already met. Startled, Carter nearly jumped through the window. A moment before, he and Lila and the parrot had been alone in the shop. He was certain of it. Mr. Vernon, Carter said, where'd you come from? Here and there, Mr. Vernon said, avoiding the question. I see you found the store. So I was right. You were selling something, Carter said, motioning to the store. No one does magic just for fun. I do, Lila proclaimed. Mr. Vernon shook his head. I wasn't trying to sell you anything, Carter. On the contrary, I simply recognized a kindred spirit and shared something that brought a smile to your face. That's hardly a crime, is it? Yes, Alina?
Me?
Yep.
For some reason my screen is hidden now. I don't know why.
Okay, you'll need to ask somebody that's home with you to help with that, I'm afraid. I didn't do anything to your screen.
Okay.
Okay, sorry about that. Yes, Jack.
I can't really see anybody else but you.
You are on speaker view. If you go to the top of your screen, you can probably see a little square that looks like it's made up of 9 tiny squares. And if you click that, you'll be able to see everybody.
All right.
Got it?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. I see some other hands up, but I'd like to be able to keep reading, and I'll read a little further and then I'll take some questions. Okay? All right. Carter's cheeks flushed as he remembered the kindness that this man had shown him at Basso's carnival. Still, he couldn't bring himself to say thanks for the warning about Basso, at least not in front of this girl. He was sure that she didn't need to know about his predicament. Mr. Vernon placed his hand over a stack of the business cards and made one flutter across the counter. It floated off the surface and danced on air. A moment later, the card dropped into his hand. Carter felt that excitement stir in his stomach. It was an unfamiliar feeling. He found himself craving more. How did you do that? Magic, Mr. Vernon said simply. There's no, Carter started. Such thing, Mr. Vernon finished for him. Yes, you've said as much. I respectfully disagree. Look around you. I've tried to create a sense of wonder for those who step across my threshold. Do you not feel it? Carter did feel it, but it made him uncomfortable that this stranger could read him like a book. Nodding, Lila piped up again. I saw his face when he walked through the door. He definitely feels the wonder. Carter crossed his arms and pursed his lips. Still with the gruff demeanor and dark outlook, I see, Mr. Vernon said. Very well. Not everyone need be cheerful all the time. Magic accepts all kinds. I'm happy you're here. I was just telling my daughter about you. How are you two related? You don't look anything alike, Carter noted. Lila's golden-hued complexion suddenly turned pink. Carter immediately wished he could take his words back. He hadn't meant to embarrass anyone. Families come in all different shapes and sizes, Mr. Vernon commented as he pulled a feather duster out of nowhere and began cleaning a shelf that didn't look like it needed cleaning. Like a snowflake or a thumbprint, no two families look alike. Plus, I'm adopted, Lila clarified with a grin. She pulled a pair of handcuffs from the counter and locked them onto her own wrists. But I was rather lucky ending up with someone who understands my need to escape. I was good at it before, but since I came here, my dad's taught me all sorts of ways to do it better. Luck? Don't you mean magic? Mr. Vernon smiled, tugging at Lila's handcuffs to show they were on securely. I prefer to think of it as fate, Lila reasoned. A spark awoke in Carter. Fate. That's what he'd felt had brought him to this town, too. He'd sensed it while climbing to the roof of the train car, and it had only grown as his uncle disappeared into the distance. Lila walked over to Carter and clapped her hands. When Carter looked down, the handcuffs were on his wrists. How'd you do that? Carter asked. He knew plenty of tricks, but already he could tell these people were experts compared to him. Escape artist, Lila said in a pointed whisper. Remember? The tiny bell on the door rang again as a bearded man with dark eyes and a handsome smile entered. The parrot squawked, repeating, Hello, Carter. Welcome to Vernon's Magic Shop. Carter laughed. So it wasn't magic. You just taught that bird to say that to everyone who walked in today. Mr. Vernon shrugged, trying not to laugh. Did I? Hello, Carter, the other man said. I'm Mr. Vernon. Carter looked from Mr. Vernon to the second Mr. Vernon. They looked nothing like each other. The second Mr. Vernon was several inches shorter than his counterpart and wore glasses. His trimmed beard covered the bottom half of his face, which shone in the morning light that streamed through the shop windows. He was dressed in a stained white jacket that had 2 rows of shiny buttons running up the front, and his pants were checkered black and white. Seeing Carter's confusion, Lila explained, I have 2 dads. She rushed over to this new man and kissed his cheek. Hi, Papa. I don't even have 1 parent, Carter said. You're lucky. You can call me the other Mr. Vernon, Lila's second dad said to Carter. Everyone does. Well, except for Lila here. I don't do magic, except in the kitchen. You make food disappear? Carter asked. No, he's a cook. I'm the one who makes food disappear, Lila said, rubbing her stomach. He's not simply a cook, Mr. Vernon noted. He is the head chef at the Grand Oak Resort. You might have noticed it overlooking our town. It's a beautiful resort, really. Or usually it is, the other Mr. Vernon explained. Ever since that B.B. Bosso and his crew checked in, they've been making an absolute mess of everything. Demanding food when the kitchen is closed, raiding the pantries after hours, behaving like beasts. Those vagabonds are absolute animals. Carter cringed at the word vagabond, which means a person who wanders from place to place without a home or a job. Carter had been called a vagabond many times. Mr. Vernon threw a harsh glance at the other Mr. Vernon, then quickly added, Carter, did you know that the famous illusionist P.T. Selbit grew up without a roof over his head? They say it gave him the drive to be a successful magician. The other Mr. Vernon ducked behind the counter, scanning the area. Apologies, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I forgot my key. Where is that thing? Is this it? Lila asked, holding up a key at the center of a series of knots and bound rope. Would you mind? The other Mr. Vernon asked, putting his hand out. Lila, in less than 2 seconds, unknotted the ropes and placed the key in her father's hand. She kept the rope for herself. Carter couldn't believe his eyes. Her hands were as fast as his own. Thank you very much, the other Mr. Vernon said. He kissed his daughter on the forehead and waved politely to Carter as he stepped outside. Nice to meet you. Ooh, this rope gives me an idea for a trick I'd like to practice, Lila smiled. Brilliant, but perhaps after school, Mr. Vernon said. Shouldn't you be on your way, young lady? Lila's confident smile slipped into a frown. Carter's not on his way to school. Well, then it's a good thing that you're not Carter. I'm between schools right now, Carter blurted out. Thankfully, Lila ignored this. May I take the day off? She asked her father. A day off from school, Mr. Vernon raised a pointy white eyebrow. Whatever for, my darling daughter? It's been a tough week. The other kids, Lila said quietly, they just don't understand me. If you can escape a straitjacket, said Mr. Vernon, I'm sure you can find some way to impress one or two of your classmates. And if not, just tie them to their chairs. Believe it or not, most kids don't like hearing about how to escape, Lila explained. That's the problem. I offered to show them how it all works, but now none of the girls will let me sit with them at lunch. And the boys, they just laugh at me in the hallways and call me freak. Freak? Mr. Vernon echoed, appalled. Maybe chivalry is dead. Lila rolled her eyes. Don't you mean chivalry is dumb? You could always try disappearing instead, said Carter. That's helped me get out of tons of predicaments. Lila laughed. Well, I am in a predicament. Sighing, she added, I'll give it a shot. She walked over to her dad and hugged him. As she passed Carter, she stuck out her hand again. A pleasure to meet you. See you soon? Carter shook her hand. I hope so. Then Carter and Mr. Vernon were alone. Mr. Vernon continued to dust his totally clean shop. Without looking, he asked, Tell me, Mr. Carter, how was the remainder of your evening? Uneventful, I hope? Bosso tried to get me to join his gang, Carter admitted. I said no. Brilliant. How did you know he was going to ask me? Carter wondered out loud. I didn't know, Mr. Vernon said, but I had a very strong hunch. B.B. Bosso is a greedy man. He's also something of a collector. You've got some skills that would make a fine addition to any collection. Carter put his hands in his pockets. You obviously don't know me very well. Nonsense. You are a young man with a great intelligence, even greater common sense, and an honorable code for living. No matter where we live or how much we have, these are the most important things. You have quite the talent with your fast hands. In my entire career as a magician, I have only seen one other person with such nimble fingers. Carter was stunned into silence. Did Mr. Vernon know he was homeless and poor? Or was he guessing? Carter felt undeserving of such compliments. He wondered suddenly if Mr. Vernon was the one who had left the blanket. But how could Carter ask him without revealing the truth of his situation? You're wrong, Carter whispered. I'm he tried to think of the word Bosso had used the previous night. A misfit. Aren't we all misfits of some sort or another? Mr. Vernon called out, suddenly upstairs, looking over the balcony. How did you? Carter gasped. Mr. Vernon took a book off the shelf and dropped it down to Carter. The old orange cloth cover was embossed with black lettering. Vanishing and Unvanishing by Bailey and Barnes. What's this? Carter asked, cracking open the cover and flipping through the first few pages. It was slim enough to fit nicely in his bag, and yet... Homework, Mr. Vernon said. Read it. I suspect you'll appreciate it. I don't have any money, Carter admitted. Consider it a gift, Mr. Vernon said with a toss of his hand, from one magician to another. Hi, Leo, do you have a question?
Yeah. Why were they lost?
Why was who lost?
Mrs. Carter.
His parents?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all wondering about what happened to his parents. The book doesn't tell us yet.
Okay.
We're going to have to keep reading before we find out what happened. I believe we'll find out sometime.
Okay.
Okay. Consider it a gift, Mr. Vernon said with a toss of his hand, from one magician to another. I'm not a magician, Carter said, his voice trembling. I just do some tricks. Then you don't see what I see, Mr. Vernon said, and seeing is believing, as the saying goes. The man hurried down the stairs and grabbed his cape and top hat from their hooks on a wall. He led Carter toward the door. Unfortunately, I have a terribly busy day and need to close the shop while I see about a few things around town. But you should come back, say about 4 o'clock? Sure, I can do that, Carter said, confused. He was both grateful for the gift and surprised to be getting kicked out after such a short talk. Brilliant, Mr. Vernon said, pushing him out the door. 4 o'clock sharp. See you then. Chapter 7. Carter spent the warm day in the park reading the book Mr. Vernon had given him. He had never owned a book before. As soon as he opened it, he was unable to remove his eyes from the simple black and white illustrations explaining magic tricks he had once thought impossible. He pored over the drawings and words from cover to cover. Then he began again at the beginning and started to memorize the first trick. Before he knew it, the bell in the town hall clock tower chimed 4 times. Looking up from the book, he discovered that mineral wells had come to life. A great many people of all shapes, sizes, colors, and ages walked along Main Street. The adults were carrying shopping bags filled with clothes and groceries and art supplies and antique knickknacks. The kids wandering home from school wore heavy knapsacks on their backs. A large sign had been erected on an easel in front of the huge gazebo. It read, B.B. Bosso's Carnival. In town for a limited time. Big top show tonight. Finale fantastic tomorrow at the Grand Oak Resort. See the world's largest diamond. 4 performers, dressed in matching jackets with red and white vertical stripes, bow ties, and straw steamboat hats, climbed the steps up to the gazebo's platform. 3 were men, and 1 was a woman. Though they all looked somewhat similar, each stood out from the next. One man was tall with a razor-sharp snout. Another was short with a curly mustache under a bulbous beak. The third man was medium height. His face was scruffy, and his belly spilled slightly over his belt buckle. The woman had a great big smile with teeth that flashed an almost blinding white. Carter slipped his book into his satchel and walked over to watch. The 4 singers hummed. Then, like spokes on a train, the 4 bobbed up and down in unison. Pock, 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 pick, pock, pick, pock. Look, a barbershop quartet, someone said. A circle of onlookers began to gather in front of the stage. Somehow the singers kept alternating the pock-pick rhythm the whole time they sang. What a town, what a town, what a marvelous town for a show. You have rings, you have gold, you have fortunes untold to blow. Hold your hats, peel your eyes, 'cause you're in for a surprise. One thing is for sure, we sing now to procure. Their hats raised in harmony, the 4 held the note so long the crowd began to clap. In unison, the singers wheezed for breath comically before launching into a rhythmic chorus. Pock, 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 pick, 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 walk, 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 trick, 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 trick. Hats in their hands, the foursome descended the steps and fanned out into the crowd. They danced with a tall woman wearing a pearl bracelet. They embarrassed a shy man who held up his hands in surrender. They blew kisses at a blushing lady with gold earrings. They tweaked the nose of a beaming pigtailed girl with a lollipop. The crowd continued clapping, many giving them the loose change from their pockets and purses. Within moments, all 4 singers' hats were overflowing with coins and bills. Pick, 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 pock, 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 quick, 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 pock, 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 pock. They flapped their arms and waddle-stepped like crooning chickens back to the stage, where they dumped their hats into a dirty white sack marked with a big black dollar sign. But as Carter looked back through the crowd, his learned instinct kicked in. The tall woman no longer had her pearl bracelet. The shy man no longer had a watch. The blushing lady no longer had her earrings, and the pigtailed girl no longer had her lollipop. The audience had been so impressed with the singing that they hadn't noticed the singers taking more than tips. When the pickpockets come to town, you'll never guess what's going down in our sensational show. As part of their finale, the stripes of their jackets switched from red to black as if somebody pulled a tab in a pop-up book. The show people now looked like jailbirds with their bag of money. The crowd went wild. No one guessed their act wasn't a joke. They were crooks. They had robbed the watchers blind. Carter felt a pang in his side, but he ignored it. He didn't know these people. It was none of his business. Was it? Thank you, residents and visitors of Mineral Wells, the Pockpickets cried out in unison. Welcome to B.B. Basso's Carnival. Come and stay for his magic show at the Big Top at the end of the night. And if you want to be truly amazed, come to his finale fantastic tomorrow night at the Grand Oak Resort, where you can also see the world's largest diamond. One night only. It is not to be missed. Carter turned to leave when a voice from the crowd rose up. Wait, do not go. A brown-skinned boy in a tuxedo with a white bow tie stepped to the front of those gathered around the stage. Is that the end of your performance? That's the spirit, one of the Pockpickets said. How about an encore, gang? The four started snapping their fingers, but the boy held up his hand. Please, he said, do not sing another note. My ears cannot take it. Carter thought the boy was part of the act until he saw irritation and confusion flashing across the singers' faces. Stepping on stage, the boy reached inside his pants pocket. He jiggled his hand as if looking for keys or spare coins, then produced a violin bow, far too long to have fit inside a pocket. The bow was exquisitely constructed of dark polished wood with tapered black ends and strung with a ribbon of silvery horsehair. Carter's curiosity was snagged. The boy knew stage magic too, but how did he fit that bow in his pocket? You want to play something? Said the tall Pockpicket. Be our guest. The foursome began to hurry off, but the boy pinned their bag of loot to the ground with his foot. Hey, get your own tips, kid, the Pockpicket with the scruffy face hissed. I do not want your money, the boy said, and my name is not Kid. My name is Theo Steinmeier, and I wager that you will stay for my act. Theo's hair was short and dark. His eyes were thoughtful, and his long nose had a regal look to it. Carter arrived in the front row just in time to see a violin slide out of Theo's tuxedo jacket and into his left hand. Carter was good at sleight of hand, but Theo's moves were astounding. He immediately wished he could watch the move again in slow motion. Theo lifted the violin to his shoulder, rested his chin on its edge, and began to play. The money sack began to move. It seemed to dance in sync with Theo's violin music. The crowd began clapping again. Carter stared at the money bag shuffling away. It reminded him of Vernon's move that morning, making the playing card dance. But how did they do it? It wasn't magic. It had to be some kind of trick. There is a unique connection between each of us and our possessions, Theo said as he played, his eyes fluttering nearly shut as if under a spell. Carter couldn't tell if the boy was acting or if he really believed what he was saying. When a beloved object is lost, it longs to return to its owner. The bag jerked across the stage until it leapt off and into the ground. Theo walked after it, the spectators moving aside to let him pass. The restless bag of loot came to attention in front of the tall woman, like a dog wanting to be pet. Ma'am, said Theo, playing more quietly, have you lost something? The tall woman looked inside the bag and shook her head no. The crowd became confused and began to whisper. The violinist began to sweat. But Carter understood. Theo was trying to help those who had been robbed. But he mistakenly assumed the pickpockets had placed the stolen goods in their loot bag. Carter eyed the singers, noticing a lollipop peeking out from a Pockpicket's back pocket. Carter wondered about the violinist. Why had Theo been trying to help a bunch of townspeople by foiling the pickpocketing singers? He obviously knew a little magic himself, but what was in it for him? It's none of my concern, Carter tried to tell himself. But was that true anymore? As the crowd began to mumble and ask questions, the violinist turned pale. The pock pickets started stalking toward Theo with red faces. The boy had stumbled onto the trouble that Carter had been trying to avoid. "Keep playing," Carter suddenly yelled, surprising himself. He made eye contact with the boy in the tuxedo and gave him a reassuring nod. Nervously, Theo began to play again, and the sack began dancing along with it. Carter pretended to dance, then bumped into each of the pock pickets, one after the other. "Isn't this music great?" he shouted at them. The singers didn't notice what Carter was doing. He was pickpocketing the pock pickets. 1 pock picket's pockets picked. 2 pock pickets' pockets picked. 3 pock pickets' pockets picked. 4 pock pickets' pockets picked. Now say that 4 times fast. Okay. Carter winked at Theo to keep going. Continuing to dance through the crowd, Carter bumped into the tall woman, slipping her pearl bracelet back onto her wrist. He barreled into the shy man, slipping his watch back onto his wrist, and he knocked into the pigtailed girl, plopping the lollipop back into her mouth. Plop. But the earrings, Carter had no idea how earrings even worked. How could he put those back on without the woman noticing? Theo met his eyes, and both boys knew they had an understanding. Theo danced the money bag back onto the stage, finishing out his song. "Thank you, kind audience, for allowing me to play." As he took a bow, Theo tossed his violin high into the air. The entire crowd gasped and looked up. As gently as possible, Carter slipped the earrings into the lady's handbag. Theo caught the violin with ease, and everyone began to applaud. Patting their pants, the pickpockets finally realized that Theo and Carter had outsmarted and out-pickpocketed them. The singing quartet glared daggers at the 2 boys as they slunk away from the gazebo with only their bag of tips. Theo and Carter shrugged, then burst into laughter. They were so distracted that neither noticed a slim woman dressed in a slinky black dress and a pillbox hat with a web-like veil over her face. She stared at them, her fingers twitching like spider mandibles chewing a meal. Who do we think that was? Okay, let me just catch up. You guys have written me some messages here. Hold on. Okay, so Alina and Nora and Andres, will you please check with your folks and see if it would be possible for us to have a very quick meeting right after Read Aloud is done? And I will send out a link for that so we can chat about your project. Okay, so I will open it up now. Alina, was that what you wanted to ask me about?
No.
Okay, what was your question?
What does unison mean?
In unison means all together. So I can't remember when it was used. I don't see the sentence. Do you remember the sentence it was used in?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, it just means something that happens all together. If you accidentally say the exact same thing that your friend says when you're both sitting right next to each other, you're saying it in unison.
Really low.
Okay. Rashawn, where are you? I lost you. There you are, Rashawn. Now I'm attempting to unmute you. There we go. What was your question?
Like, I see that, like, Nigel, he made it, like, something, what, like...
Why does Nigel look like he's on the moon?
Like, he looks, like, clear.
Yes. Nigel, would you like to, I'm trying to unmute you. Would you like to explain what you've done to make it look like you're in space?
So there's like this that more thing where there's a chat and then it might say background and then there's like this San Francisco one space and then there's like this slave. So if you're wondering, Rashawn, that's how you do it.
You can go down to backgrounds,
Yeah.
more, and then background. And you can choose a background of your own.
Yes.
Isn't technology amazing? Okay, I feel certain that Leo has a question. Leo. There you go, Rashawn. You found it. Leo, what was your question?
I'm tired.
You're tired?
Yeah.
Yeah? Well, you know what? It's raining outside, so it's a good day for a nap.
Oh.
So that worked out perfectly. Sam, I'm trying. Hold on. Okay, Sam, go for it.
What are pockets? Question mark.
So it starts with the word pickpocket, which is a word that describes exactly what's happening. You are picking someone's pocket. You're reaching into their pocket and stealing what's in there. So that's a type of a thief, right?
I know that.
Picks pockets. The singing group, and I do apologize for my singing, but the singing group called themselves the Pockpickets. And the whole premise of their act was that they were pretending to pick people's pockets. And everybody was laughing and enjoying the entertainment and not realizing that they were actually being stolen from. So that explains the whole pickpocket thing.
I got something stolen from me once.
Oh no. That's terrible.
It is.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay, thanks. Danny?
How did Carter know the boy?
I don't think so. I don't think he knew him before. What did you think?
That they just met and then they had an understanding.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what happened. They spotted each other and recognized that they both had the same goal, huh? Of helping those people out.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Okay. Rashawn, did you still have a question?
No.
Okay. Ada.
I remember the unison thing. So when the pockpickets were wheezing for breath in unison.
Ah, okay, thank you. Yes, so all at the same time. They were wheezing for breath. Good thing you have a good memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alina?
I forgot my question.
Okay, no problem. Let's see. I saw Svea had a hand up. Hi, Svea. Sorry, hold on. I don't know. Half the time it works and half the time it doesn't. I mean, I'm clicking on it. There we go. Wait. There. Got it.
I got my coat stolen
You had your coat stolen?
from Epic Air.
From where?
Epic Air.
From Epic Air, your coat was stolen. Oh man. Well, could it have been a mistake? Someone thought it was theirs? No? Oh, awful. I'm sorry to hear that. Let's see. Moises. Hi.
Was the boy with the violin the one that gave Carter the blanket when he was asleep?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think we know who gave him the blanket. That's an interesting idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
I wonder if you're right. We'll probably find out eventually here.
Yeah.
Good question. Danny, I see your hand, but I'm going to check and make sure there wasn't anyone else who didn't have a turn yet. Gabe, is that your hand up or are you just waving around? Okay. Andres? Hold on, Andres. My button doesn't work right now. Okay, now try.
Can I go to the bathroom?
You may. You don't actually have to ask. You just have to make sure you leave your screen where it is.
Okay.
You don't have to ask me to go, but you do have to keep the screen outside of the restroom. Thank you. That's enough said about that. You guys, I'm about to drive myself mad here. Okay, Miles.
Why did they want to steal from these poor people?
Well, it's kind of like when we were talking about Uncle Sly. Why does somebody turn to a life of crime? What did we decide were some of the possible reasons? Try to unmute Henry here because I think Henry has an idea. But Henry, my button won't work. I don't. Okay, there you go, Henry. What do you? Oh wait, that's not Henry. That's Svea. You guys would stop hopping around on me.
Miss Fortune, for some weird reason, I'm not muted.
Yeah, I can see that.
And me.
Mute yourself.
Sam, you're not muted.
Well, yes, because I can mute myself.
I know how to mute myself.
What?
Henry, I'm still trying. Don't give up on me, Henry.
You can do it, Miss Fortune.
Clicking and clicking.
Doing, doing, doing.
It will not go. Henry, can you unmute yourself?
I unmuted myself.
Excellent. What did you want to say, sir?
I think the people are stealing because they're rude, mean, and they're probably don't have any money.
So one of the possibilities is that they are just plain mean.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. That is definitely a possibility. What were some of the other reasons that we talked about that might cause someone to become a thief? Okay, Adam, I'm trying. There you go, Adam.
Because they don't have any money.
They might be desperate, not have any other way of supporting themselves. Although we did say it's important to note that lots of people are hungry and poor who do not turn to crime as a solution, right? But that could be the reason. Good. Who else would like to comment on that? Here, Eleanor, let me try to get you unmuted. There, worked the first time, Eleanor.
They might just be wanting to be rich.
It might seem like an easy way to get rich instead of working hard your whole life, right? Probably not worth it, the consequences though, huh? Yeah. Gabe, I can't tell if you're raising your hand.
I am.
How do you want to say?
How do you unmute yourself?
Well, I'm not looking at your screen, so I'm not exactly sure how to direct you. But I bet somebody at your house can help you, show you how, okay? I know it seems like I can see what you see, but my screen looks very different. And right now, all of you are playing with the backgrounds, and it's kind of hilarious because some of you are in San Francisco, and some of you are on the moon. Do I have backgrounds? I haven't even tried that. Oh, here. Hold on. There. I don't think this is working right. How's that? Okay, I'm gonna go back to none. All right. Joey.
I couldn't really hear how to do backgrounds.
So it sounds
Kinda low.
like, well, here, Nigel, let's let Nigel explain it to you. Go for it, Nigel.
Okay. Okay. So you go to this chat thing that you usually go to. It says more on the top if you're on
Chat?
the computer. Yeah, and don't go to chat. There's gonna be something that says virtual background or something like that. Virtual background.
So I press more.
Yeah, and then you go to virtual background.
It just says save chat.
Well, you know, depending on what kind of device you're looking at, it could be different for everyone.
I'm on a computer.
If you want to ask your mom or dad, Joey. Okay, Addie, I'm trying to get to you, but now something is really weird.
Oh no.
Huh. I've completely lost my mouse. Okay. So guys, we're gonna have to wrap it up. There we go. Okay. Where was Addie? There she is. Oh, she's on the moon. Yes, dear.
About the virtual background thing. There, you know where the camera, where underneath it says stop video, on the right of that there's an arrow and you click it and a box comes up and it'll show you your different options. Like there's FaceTime.
Oh, I got it.
Built-in. Choose. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to let you guys play with that for a minute, and I'm going to go set up a different meeting now with the Pangolin project. So Alina and Andres and Nora, I will see you in about 5 minutes, and then after that, Jack Crawford, I will see you at 2 o'clock, and Eleanor, I will see you at 3 o'clock. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, guys.
Bye.
See you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Addie.
Bye.
Bye. Mouser.
Hi guys. Am I sideways too?
Bye. Bye.
Yeah, we gotta leave the meeting.
Did you have COVID?
Leave the meeting.
You have a screen up on the bottom? Do you have that little?
Yes.
No, you gotta do it with this or with the mouse. Is there a bar pulling up across the bottom?
Wait. How do I? Wait, I can still do this? Can I?
Yeah, there's one.
Yep, there's a way that we're wearing two other sets of earrings.
Hey guys, has anyone noticed my upside down screen yet?
Oh no.
I noticed it.
You rotate your screen 90 degrees twice. It's funny.
Daisy.
Bye. Mama, it's on the meeting, but it's not doing anything.
Ada!
Hi, upside. Oh, this is so weird.
You know what? Guys, look at my screen in a second. I want to show you something. Oh no.
Okay,
Yes.
guys.
A rotated result. Miss Fortune, do you like it?
Oh, okay, yeah. Huh. How are you doing that? Okay.
Go to the virtual backgrounds and then change your screen 90 degrees.
Okay, I will see you guys. I'm gonna shut us down now.
Wait, guys, look at my screen. I am on the moon.
Bye-bye.
Zero gravity.